Hello. I'm so happy to be here. This is day 1 of the Money Wounds Masterclass. And I feel so lit up and excited to be teaching on this topic. So I'm lighting up a little Palo Santo so I can clear the energy to make sure that I am able to deliver this teaching with really fresh, clear energy. Hey Liz. Hi Emma. And as you're jumping on, if you've had a chance to take the Money Wounds quiz, I would love to know. If you took it, let me know what your top money wound was. So that will be super helpful. All right, so the way this is gonna work is it's a 2-day masterclass. This is a really juicy topic. It's something that I feel is a huge part of my mission and impact and my life's work. So I just share that because any of you who have been around the coaching space for a while know that, there's plenty of masterclasses, and sometimes they're really important, deep stuff, and sometimes they're kind of like the flavor of the week or the flavor of the month, and they come and go. And there's no judgment on either one. I've done both, but I just want to share that for me, this topic feels like a hugely important foundational part of my work. And so this is not just a flavor of the month masterclass. This is something that is really deeply connected to the work that I'm here to do on the planet. And it feels like such an honor to be able to deliver some of that. So let's jump in. And I want to just start with some basic kind of definitions, because you may be wondering, like, what is a money wound? Or you've kind of come up with a definition in your head of what it is, but this language and terminology is not familiar necessarily to the masses. And so I want to just talk about like what it is, why we have them. Then we'll go into how it limits us, how we heal them, and all the good stuff. But just starting with the basics, like what is a money wound? A money wound primarily is stored trauma. So we have a stored trauma in our body around money or our relationship with money or some transactional experiences that we've had with money. And that saying of the issues are in the tissues is really true when it comes to a money wound. So there is a thought component to it as well, because ultimately this stored trauma does shape our thoughts and our beliefs around money. But primarily when I think about a money wound, I'm thinking about actual stored trauma in our nervous system around our relationship with money. For example, you eat some Chinese food from this specific restaurant, and the next day or later that night, your belly's in knots, you're throwing up, you're having a horrible time of it, you've got food poisoning for the next 24 hours. And for months and months after that, when you think about eating at that restaurant, you actually have like a physical reaction, like, oh no, I couldn't possibly do that. Your spouse or your partner is like, hey, does that sound good for dinner? And you're like, can't do it, right? It's like this physical thing. So even though logically you can say like, okay, I'm probably not going to get food poisoning again from this same restaurant. I understand that. But physically, my body's still not going to let me eat the food, right? So we need to distinguish between from the neck up what's happening and from the neck down, because no matter what we logic, when our body is having this physical experience, our body is typically going to win. So another example, let's say that you get into a car accident. Maybe it's just a fender bender. It doesn't have to be like that big of a deal. But then every time you drive by that stretch of road or that exit on the freeway, it's like you physically feel that in your body, right? It elicits some of the same trauma response. You feel a little anxiety. You feel less safe in your car. You feel more concerned about yourself as a driver. It's stored trauma in the body. And so from the neck up, you might be able to logic the fact that you've driven by this place 100 times and only one time did you get in an accident. Nevertheless, the body has a physical reaction to it. The same thing is true with money. Are there limiting belief components? Of course. But I feel that sometimes the reason that we go wrong in our ideas around money and our money relationship and money mindset is because we're trying to handle it all from the neck up. We're trying to just think about it from thoughts, beliefs, affirmations, and we're not addressing what's actually happening in our bodies. When we have a money wound, how does it actually limit us? Well, let's think about having a physical wound on the body. So if you stepped on a nail and you had a nail in your foot, that would be ridiculously painful, right? Like any parent who's ever stepped on a Lego or a little kid's toy knows how painful it is to step on something sharp. And so if you've got a nail in your foot, it's totally going to change the way that you walk. Right? You're going to be limping along. You're going to be trying not to put weight on that foot because it's painful. If you got a nail in the foot, you're limping along. It's super difficult to walk. If that continued on and on and on, over time, you would simply change the way that you walked. And imagine that going on for weeks and then months and then years. And pretty soon, you forgot that the nail even existed, and this is just how you operate. This is just the way that you walk. And this happens to us. We start to see the world a certain way. We start to operate a certain way, and we don't realize that we're actually operating based on the wound. And what happens, because our brain is so smart, we have something called a reticular activating system, which is literally our filter. And so our brain starts to filter out evidence that does not fit our paradigm and starts to show us all of the things that fit our belief system. So over time, we're operating from this wound. We're seeing more evidence that lines up with the wound, and we don't actually realize that it's not us, that it's not ourselves. Right? And so I'm going to use a lot of examples and analogies in teaching this because I think it helps drive home the point. So if you think about fleas, and I don't know what you know about fleas, but aside from like not wanting them, not wanting your dogs to get them, right? This pesky little creature. So these tiny, tiny, tiny little creatures, bugs, unpleasant creatures, can actually jump like 22 times their height. They're this tiny little thing. They can jump like feet high. But if you put a flea in a jar and you put the top on the jar, the flea will jump. It's going to try to escape. And after a few times of hitting its head on the top of the jar, it learns not to jump so high because it's painful. And so at that point, you can actually take the lid off the jar and the fleas won't jump out, right? And so there's this external thing that's happened. It caused pain a couple times. The fleas totally changed their behavior to avoid pain, and then they just operate like that forever and ever and ever. And they forget that they even could jump higher. It just becomes their way of operating. Likewise, when you take a baby elephant, and if you want them in captivity, you put a chain around their, like a cuff around their leg that attaches to a chain and goes into a stake in the ground. And that little baby elephant will pull and pull and pull, and it cannot get the stake out of the ground. But the elephant grows. It grows bigger, bigger, stronger, stronger, heavier, heavier, to where it could pull the chain out of the ground easily. No effort required, but it doesn't try because it's already learned that I tried and tried and tried and pulled as hard as I could, and no matter what, I can't go beyond the length of this chain. An external circumstance that resulted in pain or a limitation, and then it never gets tested again. And so the elephant still believes that it can't pull the chain out of the ground. These are just a few examples that help us see the way that we operate when we're wounded and we don't realize it. And so this differentiation and this othering between ourselves and our money wound is actually a really important and beautiful first step in being able to heal. Because as long as we think it's us and we think that it's our identity and it's just something that is the way that it is for us in our paradigm, then there's really nothing to change and fix. And often we end up thinking that we're the ones that are broken. And I actually came across this quote from Carl Jung: "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Until you become aware that you have a money wound, you will operate as though this is the way that your life will always be, and you will not think twice about it. So simply this idea that we have a money wound or we have money wounds, but we are not our wounds, that in and of itself is really integral to this healing process. When I saw that quote, it just felt so perfect for this topic. So how do we know that we have them? For some of us, it might be like, yeah, it's really obvious. Like, I really feel it in my relationship with money. But for others, where it's still in the subconscious, it might feel like this is just the way things are. Like, of course money is stressful, or of course money causes anxiety, or of course I'm going to be worried when I make a purchase, or whatever. Of course every time I swipe my credit card, I feel a little huh. We just think that that is the way that it is. Well, so how do we know that we have a money wound and it's not just us and it's not just the way that our relationship with money is? We can look at our lives. Our lives are our evidence, right? So everything we have and everything that we don't have is the evidence of our belief systems, our thoughts, our manifestations, and yes, our wounds as well. When you think about your life as evidence and you see that your belief systems are perpetuating it, you can start to examine the evidence that you have around you. So for me, a belief system that I've always had was that it's really easy for me to stay at a consistent weight and like at kind of my goal weight. Like, I don't have to work hard at it. I have a body that stays at this certain weight and I can eat whatever I want and I don't really gain a lot. I have a fast metabolism. Like, those are just beliefs. And you might be looking at me saying like, no, that's actually true for you. The truth is, I have evidence of times when that hasn't been the case. But my belief system has always won out to the extreme where when I was pregnant and I gained 45 pounds, literally, if you saw the pictures of me, 30 minutes after birth, it's shocking. Even my midwives were like, what? How? I got up to go to the bathroom for the first time after giving birth, 30 minutes later, and my stomach was flat. It's crazy. But I truly know that it's because I have this belief system that shapes every cell of my being to make that true. And again, I'm sharing so many stories that have nothing to do with money because I think sometimes it's more easy for us to apply these other paradigms, these stories of animals, the stories about me, the stories about weight, to our relationship with money than if we were to simply look at money evidence and that's it. So what does your bank account tell you? If we're looking at evidence of our money wounds, what does your bank account say? What have your experiences been with money? How does it come to you? How does it leave? Does it come and stay? Does it come and grow? Does it come and exponentially multiply? Does it get spent quickly? Does it feel like it's gone forever? Does it get invested and it grows and multiplies somewhere else and then comes back to you? Does it feel dramatic? Like there are high highs and low lows? Does it feel like money is always leaving? Does it feel like it's hard to come by? Does it feel like it's hard to hold on to? This is our evidence that we have money wounds. And that's actually a very good thing. Because if it weren't evidence that we have money wounds, then it would simply be evidence that this is the way it is. And that's a much harder pill to swallow than learning, you know what? All these years that I thought that I was operating as a sovereign being and making my own decisions when it came to money, I was actually perpetuating old patterns that came from my wound. I was making decisions from the wound, not from being a sovereign, healed being. And that is the most exciting thing. That is the thing that lights me up. Inside of my body, it just gives me chills right now to think about that and share it with you, because I know that there are so many people, there are millions of people out there that don't understand this discernment, that can't distinguish between themselves and their wound. And just having that discernment, just having that basic understanding is 90%. Because once we have that, and once it's in our conscious awareness, we can start to work on healing it, whether we do it ourselves, whether we do it in community, whether you do it through this free masterclass, whether you do it through a paid program. That actually is not as important as simply understanding I have money wounds, and all of my decisions that I thought I was making as a sovereign being, I was actually making from my wound. That is revolutionary. That allows us to tell a very different story about what's happened in our relationship with money up until this point. So if nothing else, that should make you feel really excited about what's to come. So if you can agree with me that you have money wounds, and hopefully you've taken my quiz to find out which ones are strongest or most prominent for you, then the next logical question is okay, well, how do I heal them? Right? How do I heal these money wounds? And for many of us, unless you're brand new to doing money work, you've probably tried to heal your money wounds before. Even if you could never name the wound, you've tried to do something. But I'm going to bet that what you've tried to do was a Band-Aid approach. So if you think about an actual physical wound on your body, right? If you imagine a bullet hole, there's the Band-Aid approach, right? You could put the Band-Aid on the bullet hole, but the actual healing would be done by removing the bullet, by going deep, by getting to the root cause of what's actually going on and causing the wound, and giving some medicine that is specific to that problem that creates permanent healing. So here are some Band-Aid approaches to money wounds. Make more money. Make more money. How often have we thought, all of my money problems will be solved if I just make more money? I've got it. That's all I gotta do. Right? Once I get to here, once I have this much money in the bank account, it will all go away. And I'm laughing because I am so freaking guilty of that Band-Aid. But I'll tell you, there were times in my life where I thought if I could ever get to the point where I made $100,000 salary, I would be set. Set. Would not need anything else. Guess what happened when I got to $100,000 salary? Spoiler alert. Was not set. Still had desires. Still had money mindset work to do. Still had money wounds. Was that the point where I said, need to work on my money wounds? Because I thought when I got here that I would be done and I'd be fine, and I wasn't fine? Oh no. It was oh, well, maybe we need 3 Band-Aids instead of 1, right? I thought that getting to $100,000 per year was going to be the thing that would fix all the money woes and fix how I felt about money, my relationship with money, all of it would be fixed. So now it just needs to be more. Just a little more money will be good. More money will be good. And then, I became an entrepreneur. And then for the longest time, the goal was to do $100,000 cash in a month. And it was oh, well, when we get to 100K in a month, that's when things will really get good. Imagine how that story ends. So one of my real messages around money wounds is we don't have to wait. And in fact, waiting doesn't actually solve anything. And it's this Band-Aid approach. It's kicking the can down the road. It's hoping that the can will just go away if I kick it enough times. So I never actually have to introspect. I never actually have to do the deep inner work. I never actually have to change the trauma response in my body around money. I can just make more of it, and then I'll be fine. No examination of belief systems required, no healing required. This is just an external change that will change everything for me. So that's the biggest Band-Aid that we use when it comes to money, right? And you can apply this to other things as well. If you're dating, if I just meet the right guy, if I just meet the guy that meets all of this criteria, then I'll feel good about myself. Then I'll feel worthy. Then I'll love myself. Then I won't feel bad about my body image. Then. And it's like, it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. We have to do the inner work first, and then we become the match. And we can actually hold on to the thing we desire. So by doing the money work first and by healing the money wound, not only can you attract money, not only can you hold money, not only can you let money grow, not only can you release money and have it come back multiplied, you can do it all from such a healthy place that it actually works and it actually gets you the outcome that you want, instead of perpetuating whatever your cycle is based on your money wound. And tomorrow I'm going to go into a deep dive into each of the money wounds so that you can understand which one yours are, and you can also learn about the other ones, because let's face it, we all have other people in our lives that are very likely to have these other money wounds as well. And so the more we understand them, the more that we can heal our own relationship, heal the way that we're in communication with money and relationship with money with others as well. So the other Band-Aid solutions that are out there when it comes to money wounds are, so that number one is make more money. Number two, I'm just gonna not think about it. I'm just gonna avoid. I'm not gonna look in my accounts. I'm just gonna kind of try to pretend that money doesn't exist as much as possible. I'm going to avoid any feelings around money. I'm gonna avoid conversations around money, and that'll fix it. We know that's a Band-Aid solution. Avoidance is never the answer to anything. It's like our inner child, you know? Like, man, have you ever done something stupid and you felt really bad and you just thought, like, if I hide in my room long enough, maybe it will just go away and I'll never have to address it? It's like there's still that part of us that's alive and well that just hopes against all logic and all experience in our lives that, like, somehow if I just avoid it, maybe this time it actually will just go away and I actually won't have to address it. But our higher self knows that that's not true. It's not how it works. The third way that we have Band-Aid solutions when it comes to our money wounds is affirmations. And this is one that can be a tough pill to swallow if it's something that you've tried or subscribed to in the past. And I'm right there with you, okay? I'm right there with you. The idea that we can simply affirm something else and say it over and over again enough to make it true, it's a beautiful idea, right? It's something that we want to work. We like it because it scratches that masculine energy itch, like, oh, this is something I can do. I can lean forward, I can take action, I can listen to my affirmations or say them out loud this many times per day. Oh, I can do my visualizations, I can write in my journal. I'm the kind of person that makes $1 million every year, and we can do this over and over again, and we feel, a part of us feels good about it because we feel like there's something I can do, there's something that I'm in control of, and I must be making progress, right? Because I'm being so diligent about this. And unfortunately, it's still a Band-Aid solution, because it would be like you got the food poisoning from the Chinese restaurant. Every time you think about it, your body still wants to get physically ill, but you're like, oh, it's fine. I'm just gonna write out my affirmations. I eat Chinese food from this restaurant. I eat Chinese food. It tastes delicious. It tastes delicious. It tastes delicious. And your body the whole time is going, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. And when we have this conflict, the subconscious mind and the body always win. Always. Because our conscious mind is only like 5% of all of our brain power. So we can use our conscious mind all we want to do affirmations around money, but it's not going to work if our subconscious mind and our body aren't on board. Can we all just agree together on this masterclass that we are no longer interested in Band-Aid solutions for our money wounds? I think that alone would be such a powerful and potent statement. So if we don't want the Band-Aid solutions, what do we want? I don't know about you, but I want potent medicine. I want the thing that gets to the root cause, that delivers a targeted treatment for permanent healing. I'm not here for the over-the-counter, pop this pill, this vitamin, put a little cream on it, slap a Band-Aid on it, and call it good. I'm here for the potent medicine that gets to the root cause, delivers a targeted treatment for permanent healing. So if you are with me on that, then I am so excited, and I invite you into some very powerful guided healing practices around that. So I'm going to take you through one live on tomorrow's masterclass. And then inside of my Money Wounds Medicine program, which I'll be talking about a little bit more at the end, that is exactly what I'll be doing, is providing the potent medicine to permanently heal your money wounds. And you know what's so cool about it? It's actually not that hard. I think oftentimes we have a very disempowering belief that, well, if I've had these money wounds my whole life, or since I was a 6 or 7 year old, like, how long is it going to take to undo this? It doesn't take long. It really doesn't. That's like the most incredible thing. And sometimes we also think it's going to take a long time because I've been doing affirmations at the yin yang for the last 5 years and my money situation hasn't changed that much. Well, now you know it's because that was a Band-Aid approach. So you don't have to make yourself wrong about that. You don't need to shame yourself over that. You don't need to have guilt about it. You don't need to be mad at the person that told you to do affirmations. Now you know. And so now you can take a different action, and how beautiful that there is potent and permanent healing available, right? If you think about our physical bodies, and when we have physical wounds, there aren't always cures. There aren't always permanent treatments. Hell, sometimes you can't even get a diagnosis for what exactly is wrong with you. So we don't need to feel bad that it's taken us this long to get here. We actually just have an opportunity to feel so much gratitude that we are here, and so much gratitude that there actually is a diagnosis now, right? That you've been able to take the money wounds quiz, you've been able to name your money wounds. Having a diagnosis is so powerful. And not only that, but now you can get some permanent, potent medicine for that diagnosis instead of all the Band-Aid stuff that you've tried in the past. So I'm super fired up about this. I hope that you are too, because there is so much healing available. And here's the thing, we are blocking money. When we have unhealed money wounds, we are blocking money. Whew, so much money. There is so much money that wants to come to us that can't, because we're perpetuating evidence and environment and behaviors and actions and thoughts that are all consistent with a wound, instead of being consistent with the truth of what we're actually capable of and what's actually available for us. So this is super exciting, because as soon as you start healing money wounds, it's not like you have to then start going out and creating money or earning money. It's like, I look at it as, the visual I always get is like all of these channels. They're almost like aqueducts in my mind when I see them. All of these channels where money can flow into me, and some of them are dammed. There's a block. And it's like, as soon as you remove the block, if you break a dam, the water just gushes. And it's like there's so much money that's just being dammed up, that's being blocked by these money wounds. And when we heal them, it's like releasing the floodgates, and there's so much more money available. It's really, really exciting. So I just hope that you're picking up on the excitement vibes and not feeling bad that you have the wound, not feeling bad that it's taken you this long to get to this place. Because time it's a myth. It's a social construct. It doesn't even exist. So who cares? Who cares if it took you 20 years or 50 years or 70 years? It's like, what does it even matter? That's just out of what? One lifetime? One lifetime out of being an infinite being? Who cares? You're here now. You're getting this information now. And how beautiful is that? So when we think about healing money wounds, there are two aspects of the process. There's the neck up aspect, which is reprogramming our subconscious, rewiring all the neurons in our brain that are firing a certain way when it comes to a money transaction, a big investment, money coming in, money going out. Other neurons are firing at the same time. So we have the opportunity to do some reprogramming and some rewiring there. We have the opportunity to build evidence around our desired beliefs. So changing that reticular activating system that's been filtering out all of the evidence that wasn't consistent with the wound. Now we get to look for and find all of the abundant evidence around us that's consistent with our desired beliefs. So that's the neck up part of the healing. And then there's the neck down part of the healing, which is our feelings. In order to heal our money wounds, we require creating feelings of safety in the body. We can't eat at the Chinese food restaurant and enjoy it when our body is still feeling like it's going to throw up because it remembers the trauma of the food poisoning. Likewise, we cannot release money, we can't spend it, we can't invest, we can't purchase from a feeling of desire and joy and fun and trust when our body is still holding on to trauma associated with all of those same actions. So there's a physical, a feeling, a body part of this healing. Repatterning how it feels to have money, how it feels to spend money, how it feels to transact money, how it feels to be in relationship with money. And as long as we're trying to just heal it from the neck up, the evidence stays the same. Maybe our bank account goes up a little bit. Maybe we're getting some results, but we're not seeing these exponential changes. We're not seeing the block being released and the floodgates being opened for us because we're not getting to the most important part of the healing, which is changing the trauma response and the feelings within our body. So if you liked what you heard today and you feel like, yes, I am ready for deep healing, I'm ready for the permanent, potent medicine that gets to heal these money wounds so that I can unblock myself, I can receive more money than I have before, I can operate from a completely different place, I can change the way that I feel about money, then the Money Wounds Medicine program is for you. And the program will be diving deep into all 6 money wounds, diving deep into the healing practices around them, and repatterning and rewiring ourselves for more wealth. That's really it. There's not a ton of details needed beyond that. That is the transformation that you'll get within the Money Wounds Medicine program. I think that's really it on the Money Wounds Medicine program. That concludes today's training. I'll see you tomorrow to go into a deep dive on all 6 money wounds. Have a beautiful Friday, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.